The first thing Emily Carter noticed was how quiet the street was. No traffic noise, no barking dogs, just the soft sound of wind moving through tall trees. It felt unreal, like the world had paused the moment she parked her car in front of the house. She sat there for a second longer than she should have, her hand resting on the steering wheel, her heart beating faster for a reason she couldn't fully explain. She was married. That thought came sharp and clear, like a warning sign. Still, she stepped out of the car. Emily hadn't planned for this visit to feel important. It was supposed to be casual coffee with neighbors, friendly conversation, nothing more. But as she walked toward the front door of the neat white house, she felt as if she were stepping into a moment that would stay with her long after it ended. She raised her hand and knocked. The door opened almost immediately. Hannah Reynolds stood there, smiling warmly, her eyes kind and welcoming. "Emily, I'm so glad you came," Hannah said, pulling her inside before Emily could overthink it. The house smelled like fresh coffee and clean wood. Soft music played somewhere in the background. It wasn't fancy, but it felt lived in, comfortable, safe. Family photos lined the walls, beach trips, holidays, small moments frozen in time. Emily felt something tighten in her chest as she looked at them. This is what connection looks like, she thought. "Mark's in the kitchen," Hannah said. "He won't stop experimenting with new coffee blends." As if on cue, Mark Reynolds appeared, holding 2 mugs. He smiled easily, not forced, not rushed. "Welcome," he said. "Hope you like strong coffee." Emily smiled back. "I think I need it today." She didn't know why she said that. Maybe because it was true in ways that had nothing to do with caffeine. They sat together in the living room, talking about simple things, weather, work, local events. Emily talked about her job at a marketing firm in Boston, how busy it had become. Hannah shared stories about her freelance design work. Mark listened more than he spoke, but when he did, his words felt thoughtful. Steady. Emily noticed how they looked at each other when the other spoke. Not dramatic, not intense, just present. It made her feel both warm and sad. At home, her life felt different. Not bad, just quiet, predictable. Her husband, David, was a good man, responsible, kind, but lately conversations had turned short. Evenings passed with phones in hand, tired smiles. An unspoken distance. Sitting in this house, Emily felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, like she mattered simply for being there. Hannah stood up after a while. "I forgot I promised my sister I'd call her. I'll be right back." She disappeared down the hallway, leaving Emily and Mark alone. The silence wasn't awkward. It was calm but heavy. "You seem thoughtful," Mark said gently. Emily looked down at her coffee. "I guess I am. Good thoughts or heavy ones?" She hesitated, then shrugged. "A bit of both." Mark nodded, like he understood without needing details. Sometimes visiting someone else's life makes you think about your own. That simple sentence landed deeper than Emily expected. She looked up at him, surprised. Yes, exactly. They didn't say anything else for a moment. The clock ticked softly on the wall. Emily became aware of her breathing, how clear her thoughts suddenly felt. She realized she wasn't attracted to Mark in a physical way. What she felt was different. It was recognition, comfort, a sense of being seen that scared her more. Hannah returned, as cheerful as ever, and the moment passed. But the feeling stayed. When it was time to leave, Hannah hugged Emily tightly. "You should come by again. I've really enjoyed this." "Ah," Mark smiled. "Any time." Emily nodded, thanked them, and stepped outside. The air felt cooler now. She took a deep breath as she walked to her car. Her hands were shaking slightly. On the drive home, the radio played softly, but she barely heard it. Her mind replayed the visit in pieces, the warmth of the house, the easy laughter, the quiet understanding in Mark's voice. Why did that feel so important? She asked herself. That night, Emily lay in bed beside David. He was already asleep, turned slightly away from her. She watched the ceiling, her thoughts restless. She felt guilty for enjoying an afternoon so much. Guilty for wishing she could go back. But beneath the guilt was something else. deep awareness that something inside her had woken up. The next few days passed quickly. Work was busy. Life moved on. Emily told herself the visit had meant nothing. Just friendly neighbors. Just a reminder of what healthy connection looked like. Still, when Hannah texted her a week later, "Want to grab coffee again?" Emily's heart jumped. She stared at the screen for a long moment before replying, "Sure, that sounds nice." When she arrived a second time, the house felt familiar now. Less nerve, more warmth. They talked more openly this time. About fears. About goals. About how life never turns out exactly the way you expect. "I thought marriage would answer everything," Emily admitted quietly at one point. "But sometimes it just shows you the questions you avoided." Hannah nodded slowly. "That's normal. Love isn't the end of the story. It's the middle." Mark watched Emily carefully, not with desire, but with respect. "You don't sound lost," he said. "You sound like someone waking up." Those words stayed with her. When Emily left that evening, she knew something had changed. Not in her actions, but in her awareness. She was standing between who she had been and who she might become. And she didn't yet know which direction she would choose, but she knew one thing for sure. That first knock on the door had changed her, and there was no going back to not knowing. Emily knew the second visit would be different the moment she parked in front of the Reynolds house. Her pulse was faster this time, not from nerves, but from anticipation. She had to admit it to herself. She wanted to be here. She told herself it was harmless, just friendly curiosity, but deep down, she knew it was more. Something about this house, this couple, made her feel alive in a way her routine life hadn't in years. Hannah opened the door before Emily could knock. "You're early," she said, smiling, and the warmth in her voice made Emily relax instantly. She stepped inside, taking in the familiar smell of coffee and the soft hum of music. It was like walking into a memory she hadn't lived yet, a place where life felt easy and unforced. Mark was in the kitchen again, this time preparing snacks. He looked up, nodded, and smiled. "Glad you came." His voice was calm but carried a weight of understanding that Emily couldn't explain. She realized she felt comfortable here in a way she rarely felt at home. She sat on the couch holding her coffee tightly, noticing the small details, the way the sunlight hit the wooden floor, the little decorations Hannah had placed around the living room, the softness of the rug under her feet. It all felt intentional, yet effortless. They began talking, but this time the conversation was deeper. Hannah shared her recent challenges at work, her frustrations with deadlines, and the small victories that made her smile. Emily found herself opening up too, revealing moments from her life she hadn't shared with anyone in a long time, her fears, her frustrations with the distance growing between her and David, and the moments when she felt like she was losing herself. Mark listened quietly, interjecting only when necessary, but his presence was grounding. "You're allowed to feel this way," he said gently. "It doesn't make you a bad person, just human." Emily had never heard anyone say it like that. At home, her feelings were often ignored, brushed aside, or dismissed in the name of routine. Here, she felt understood. Not judged, not pitied, just truly seen. Hannah excused herself to check the garden, leaving Emily and Mark alone. The air between them shifted, quieter now, charged in an unspoken way. "I can't remember the last time someone listened like this," Emily admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Someone actually listened without expecting anything in return." Mark nodded, acknowledging her words without intruding. "You deserve that," he said simply. "Everyone does." Emily felt a warmth in her chest she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Not desire, exactly. Not romance in the traditional sense. But a pull, a recognition, a longing for connection that she had forgotten could exist. It frightened her. She was married. She loved David in her own way, but here in this moment, she realized how starved she had been for true emotional closeness. When Hannah returned, cheerful and unaware of the shift that had taken place, Emily felt a pang of guilt. She forced a smile, laughed at Hannah's jokes, and tried to redirect her thoughts. But the feeling didn't disappear. It lingered, like an echo bouncing through the corners of her mind. Driving home that evening, Emily kept replaying the afternoon, in fragments the sound of Mark's voice. The way Hannah's eyes lit up when she talked about something she loved. The softness of the light in the living room. She felt alive, yet torn. She wanted to tell David, to be honest, but she also feared his reaction. She didn't want to hurt him, yet she couldn't ignore the truth stirring inside her. Over the next few weeks, Emily found herself thinking about the Reynolds house constantly. Texts from Hannah came frequently: "Coffee tomorrow," or "We found a new bakery. Want to try it?" And each one made Emily's heart leap and her mind race. She told herself she was just being friendly, that this was harmless. But when she arrived for another visit, she realized she was lying to herself. This was no longer casual. Something significant was forming, something that demanded attention. Inside the house, the rhythm was familiar, comforting. They laughed, shared stories, and Emily felt a sense of freedom. Here, she could speak without pretense, without worrying about expectations or judgment. She realized that what she had been missing in her marriage wasn't love, it was attention, understanding, and emotional intimacy. David loved her, yes, but their life had become a routine of obligations and silence, not conversation or connection. That afternoon, Emily made a confession. "I feel like I disappeared," she said softly, almost afraid to speak. "Like I became someone else's wife, someone's responsibility, but not myself." Mark and Hannah listened without interruption. Mark's gaze was steady, not intrusive, simply present. "That happens to a lot of people," he said. "Life moves fast, and we forget who we are beneath all the roles we play. But realizing it is the first step." Emily felt a swell of gratitude, a mix of relief and fear. Relief because she finally found someone who understood. Fear because she knew this awareness could change everything. She wanted to stay in this house forever, to keep feeling this clarity, but she also knew she had to return to her life outside. The visit ended, and Emily drove home slowly, reflecting on every word, every glance, every smile. She felt a new kind of awareness growing inside her, a recognition of what she wanted from life and love. She knew she had to confront her marriage honestly, but she wasn't ready yet. Not tonight. Days passed. Emily tried to reconnect with David, speaking more openly, listening more attentively, hoping to bridge the distance. But even as she tried, she realized the gap had widened. The Reynolds house had shown her a reality she hadn't seen for years, a life where communication, understanding, and emotional intimacy existed naturally. It wasn't about betrayal. It was about awakening. One evening, David asked, "Are you happy, Emily?" The question stopped her in her tracks. She wanted to say yes, to reassure him, but she couldn't lie anymore. She could only nod, her mind racing with everything she had felt at the Reynolds house. The laughter, the warmth, the way she had felt truly seen. Months passed, and Emily didn't visit the house as often. She needed time to think, to understand her own feelings. But she couldn't erase the memory. It lingered, a quiet reminder of what she was missing and what she could never ignore. One day she returned, not for herself, but to return a book Hannah had lent her, a small token of their conversations about love, life, and choices. Hannah opened the door, surprised but smiling, and Emily handed her the book. They hugged, long and honest, and in that embrace, Emily felt closure, understanding, and gratitude all at once. As she walked away, Emily realized that stepping into their house hadn't been about desire or betrayal. It had been about discovery, finding the parts of herself that she had neglected, recognizing what she truly valued, and understanding that love could take many forms. For Emily, the Reynolds house would always remain a symbol of awakening. It was a reminder that emotional connection, kindness, and presence could change a person, and that sometimes the most important journeys are the ones that lead us back to ourselves. She drove home slowly, feeling a strange peace. No decisions had been made yet. No lives appended. But a choice awaited her, one that required honesty, courage, and the willingness to embrace the truth she had uncovered. Emily knew that some doors, once opened, could never fully close. and that stepping through them might be the first step toward a life she had only just begun to imagine. The hardest part wasn't the feelings themselves, it was facing the life she had been living, the choices she would have to make, and the person she wanted to become. And for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to face it. Because some love stories aren't about romance alone, they're about awakening, about realizing who you are and finding the courage to shape the life you truly deserve.